What is up, everyone? JD here. I hope you're all doing well today. Today I'm really excited to bring you a new knife review. Today we're going to be talking about the KUBEY Atlas. This is the box that the Atlas comes in. As you can see here, it was sealed. Inside of the box you get some warranty information or some information about KUBEY. You get some moisture wicking pack there, and these are sealed up. So I have changed the format, as you can tell by this video and a lot of the more recent videos. I basically show you what comes with the box after handling and carrying the knife. Let's go ahead and run through the specs and weight. We'll go through some comparison knives, and we'll talk about comparable knives as well. So the KUBEY Atlas is also known as the KUBEY KU328, has a 3.25 inch 14C 28N blade steel. We have moved away from D2. Thank you, KUBEY. 4.5 inch G10 handles, overall length 7.75 inches. And I did weigh this earlier when I took these measurements. 3.9 ounces. Let's see. Oops, there we go. 3.9 ounces. Let's see if it comes back up to 3.9. Yep, 3.9 ounces. So pretty good weight. A little heavy, but not awful. Let's go ahead and check it against my comparison knives, and we'll jump into the knife, and then we'll talk about comparables. All right, first up from the comparison knives is going to be the Spyderco Yojimbo 2. As you can see, the Atlas compares pretty favorably in size to the Yojimbo 2, which is also really close in size to the Para 3. I had that video out there where I talked about the thinness and the length and everything being very similar, but I preferred the ergos on the Yojimbo 2 over that Para 3. Next up, we're going to bring out the Spyderco Shaman. This one here has the fat carbon dark matter scales. As you can see, the Atlas is actually more closer in size and comparable to the Yojimbo 2, but we'll bring this one back out here a little bit later for that comparable part. All right, let's go ahead and move on to my other two comparison knives. First up is going to be the Benchmade Bug Out. Now this is also going to be relatively close in size. The Atlas is going to be a little bit bigger and have a little bit more presence. Next up, we're going to bring out the Spyderco Indela. This one here is going to be really close in size and also a knife that I'm going to bring back out here for comparable. It is a little bit different because it doesn't have as much presence, but I do have a reason that I want to bring this back out here in a little bit, and we'll get into that at that time. Let's go ahead and bring out the budget knives. First up is going to be the KUBEY Royal. I wanted to bring this one out here because I wanted you to get a real sense of the difference in size of the Atlas versus the Royal, because the Royal is a sub 3-inch knife. Last but not least is going to be the Buck 110 out of the budget brands, or the budget knives, I apologize. As you can see here, this is kind of really in between the two for the size. Now let me go ahead and jump into the knife really quick, and then I'll talk about alternate recommendations that I have for this particular knife. So I'm going to dive into the thing that I like the most about this, and that is going to be the multiple means of deployment. On this knife you do get a flipper tab. The flipper tab has really nice jimping, so you can use this to push button, and you can also use this to light switch. The knife also has a fuller on the blade that goes all the way down. Now, one issue that I do have is the fact that it does have this really high arc, so if you have shorter hands you can't get in there. But if you have shorter hands, you might have the smaller fingers so that you can get in here pretty easily. But for me, in all honesty, coming down here actually keeps the hand in the prime position to go right into the purchase, and it gives really nice ergos. So really good there. The thumb hole works pretty good. It isn't very sharp. I think I would have liked it to be just a little bit sharper. It does look like they knocked it down just a touch to keep it from being sharp. The other thing that they probably could have done is just not completely got rid of the material, but sort of like what Civivi and we do, and kind of chamfer it a little bit more so that you can get in there a little bit easier. Could be big hand problems. Those with smaller hands might not even have that issue. It does have a reversible deep carry pocket clip. Does work really well. It does have the gooseneck, and it does have inset liners that are milled out. see here. Let me bring my flashlight over so I can show this to you guys. So you can see, I'm trying not to go right up on it, but you can see the liners are milled out to help with the weight reduction. And while I have it there, you can really get a good sense of that jimping. You can see it without that light too. The camera will adjust. Really good jimping. It is not super aggressive, but it's not smooth either. And then this little bit of chamfering here, I think it's aesthetics, but it also does help with the ergos. It really feels nice in hand. You do have a lanyard barrel back here. This is what I like to see from manufacturers. No holes, no compromise of the pocket clip position. The pocket clip is really nice and deep carry, just leaving just a touch of the knife out. And actually, if it catches just right, you won't have hardly anything sticking out whatsoever. The blade came centered. I had no issues with it remaining centered either. Lockup is really nice on this knife. Access to the lock bar is good. I love the fact that they did the jimping here so that you can slide it over. It is tall enough with the jimping to where you're not necessarily, or it's not sharp, I guess. You're not getting that pinch when you put your thumb down to try to slide it over. It's not catching the meat. But it's also really nice because when your finger starts to roll over it, if you like to lay it down flush and come over, it works really well. And when you come in from the side, it's really nice to use. The action on this was really, really good when I got it. But the problem was the detent was really light and you could fail it. Meaning it was super easy to consistently fail because I don't think the lock bar was tuned properly for all the different means of deployment on this particular knife. So that's my first complaint. That's an easy remedy. I'm just pointing it out because when you get the knife, if you don't know how to do that or you're not confident about doing that, that's something to take into consideration. Yours could come properly tuned, but I did find I had to move it over some, and it didn't make the action bad. The drop action is still really good. I put just a dab, I rubbed a dab of oil on the ceramic ball, and it will fall shut with just a couple of shakes, and it will now lock up without coming out. And as you saw in that video with the detent being super light, I could fail it and I could get it to pop out really easy. Now that I've tuned the detent, I don't have to worry about it falling out. It is still perfectly centered, no issues with the centering whatsoever. The action feels really good because you can build up for the push out, and even if I try to fail it because it has enough strength now, it will not. And it actually feels really good now with the reverse flick, and I couldn't deploy it at all with my thumb with the thumb hole before. It would just kind of completely fail and be mushy, and I ended up in this weird I ended up in this weird spot where my finger would end up kind of almost resting on the blade, and I could feel it just starting to bite into it. But now that I've tuned that detent, that is completely gone. The other thing that I thought was a little peculiar, if you have a look here, I don't know what's going on with this pocket clip. I did try to take it and bend just the tip back down. I don't know if it's just this particular one or if they're all coming like this. They gave you now the clearance here that they didn't used to give you on the old Kubeys, and I actually had to buy the Elementum pocket clip for this one to get that type of clearance that I needed, but it was just so tight that you couldn't even get the pants past the lip. But now I have this pocket clip on this one where the lip's pointing up and it's catching the pocket again. Like the clearance is there, you can get it to go past it, whereas you couldn't really without fighting the hem of the pants pocket to get it in pocket before. But it has this bend, and for what they're asking for this knife, which is going to be my last nitpick on here, it's going to be, they're asking, if you look, I'll throw it on the screen actually because I want to make sure that it's still at the price points that I picked these two up. The denim colored scales with the coated 14C28N blade is $80. That is more than the Conspirator. That is more than the Chevalier. You can get these two button locks for less than you can the Altus with the denim and the coated blade. I think they have seriously mispriced this knife. Having said that, I did not pay $80 for this knife. This version when I picked it up, and I'm hoping that I don't miss the coupon so that I can get the screen grab for this. I picked this up for $60. I think that is very appropriately priced. $60 for G10, 14C28N that has been sandblasted, which is the cheapest way to do a finish on a knife. You can see here you got some spots on the knife that they didn't evenly apply the coating, and that's not really so much an issue with a steel that is corrosive resistant because you don't have to worry about water pockets, but it is the cheapest way to finish the blade. I think $60 is appropriate. It feels like a $60 knife. It has good action, it has good detent for deployment. But the G10 on a knife, for me, you have to get it just right. So for example, I feel like when I pick up the Spyderco, and it's going to be hard because it's light in color, it has just a little bit more texturing to it. It feels a little bit better chamfered around the edges, so that when it's in hand, it gives it a significantly better feel in hand for the ergos. Now, that is not to say that the Atlas has bad ergos or that it feels bad, but I feel like $60 is more appropriate. It does have a slightly thicker geometry. It is really thin down on the edge, but when you get out to the top of the knife, it's a little bit thicker, especially when you get to the midpoint, but that has not messed with the performance of the steel at all. And again, 14C, you can, if it's done correctly, you can tune that really nicely, or I'm sorry, you can sharpen that edge really nicely to perform well. But as you can see here, that geometry is not keeping it from slicing through the material, and it does go through cardboard really nicely. As a matter of fact, I got a piece of cardboard right here. I'm a little close to the camera, but you can see it goes through nicely. You can see the board kind of peel away, which that's the thicker geometry of that cardboard, but it really is not a factor with this knife. It performs really well, and again, the bead blast does a nice job of hiding all of the marks. You can see some of the other ones that I had on there from earlier. So I really do like this knife. Let me go ahead and give you some alternate recommendations. If you're looking at this knife and that $80 price point is out there, grab yourself a Conspirator. You get a button lock, which I think is a little bit more fidgetable. You get the flipper tab and the fuller, which is really nice for the deployment. At that price point, you get the micarta, which looks and feels more premium in hand, and it has slightly better ergos because it has a much more neutral handle position. I like this because you can move around on it much more comfortably than you can on the Atlas, and they're really close size comparisons here. I know this is a utility shape and this is more of a traditional shape that it excels at a multitude of tasks, whereas this is really for that precision cut-in, tabletop cutting, and it does not have as good of the poking task if you have to poke into their material or stab into the material first to do the work. Another option that I would recommend at that price point, because you can find them for around 60 bucks all the way up to 80 depending on the variant, is going to be the Kaiser Sheepdog. I think this is a really good example. You can get it with 154 cm. I think you can find them for around 60 to 70 bucks, which is really the price point that they're occupying with the 14C28N and the G10, but you can get micarta or G10. With this, you get the thumb hole but no flipper tab, so you can actually choke up on the blade and get closer to the edge. It has a really good utility shape, surprisingly thin. When you compare the two of them, you get more thinness on the Sheepdog. So if you're looking at the denim and you're thinking 80 is too much, I would steer you towards the Kaiser. But if you're getting it for 60, then I think it's a easier pill to swallow. Now, of course, you could prefer 14C28N over to 154 cm, but I think 154 cm is an excellent, excellent blade steel, and I still really like that one a whole lot. Other recommendations, you could pick up some of the older KUBEY models. You could get a Royal if you like something that still gives you four-finger grip but a little bit smaller to carry but has a very similar utility style shape. You can pick those up for 50 with the D2 steel. Now this one here is going to be a jaw dropper. For $35 you can pick up the Reich P801. That one has 14C28N, has an extremely thin geometry on it, Well done edge. I haven't seen too many people talking about this one on their channel, but because of the geometry and the way that they've treated the edge, it's super duper slicey, and it does go through the cardboard really well. Like, I am able to do that really controlled and have no issues. And as you can see, this is a thicker piece of cardboard, and you're getting that with a stainless steel frame lock for under $35 the last time I checked. Now, inflation is happening. Prices could have gone up for all I know, but really, really competitively priced, and you're getting 14C28N, and the stainless steel really does feel nice in hand, and it is coming in around that 4-ounce mark. So that's another really good option if you're on a budget and you're not really thrilled about spending the money. But again, this is a drop point shaped blade. Sorry, I'm trying to clean off the crud. That's my OCD kicking in. Oh yeah, and the stonewash. The stonewash on this entire thing is really incredible for the money that you're spending. I think I have another Reich on the way. The last one that I had on the channel, that smaller version, I picked that up and threw that in my fanny pack for mountain biking. I know everybody's going to think fanny pack, really, JD, seriously? But again, $35 versus this. Now, I will say this is nice because it has a little bit more of a fuller feel in hand, and it really does have a fantastic utility shape to it with a very well done edge. I really do like 14C28N, and this is a Jelly Jerry design, so I can recommend this knife at the $60 price point. I think if you're looking at it and you see that it's gone back up to 80, or if you're looking at the denim and it is still 80 and they haven't put the coupon in that as well, I would probably look just to go ahead and get this one, unless you really like the aesthetics of that and this combo and this knife really speaks to you. I think there's some better options out there. So it is recommendable at the $60 price point, all day, every day. Great action with those ceramic bearings, which I think I forgot to mention. The ceramic bearings are in that pivot. So really nice, and it does have, looks like, the bronze washers. I forget I brought the flashlights down here so I can do this now. So the you can see the bronze washers down in there as opposed to the nylon. So I do appreciate that as well. Those little touches do make a difference. If you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor, leave a like. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. I'd love to have you follow along. I don't know why you haven't joined yet. If you're checking out the channel, there's tons of other content out there. Feel free to check it out. I have reviews, mods, long-term reviews, all kinds of stuff, battles, comparisons, all that good stuff. If you are subscribed, thank you so much. I appreciate the support, the continued support. You are awesome. Thanks for tuning in. I hope all of you have a fantastic week, and until next time, peace.